Welcome everybody to the final two races of the PDC Racing series here from Donington Park at the end of what has been a short but very, very sweet which has produced drama and intrigue right from the word go. It's about to come to an end though this weekend here at Donington Park with two races around the fast and undulating Donington Park National Circuit set to round out the season. These big grid of drivers in identical Skip Barber Formula 2000 cars set to do battle at a circuit that always creates great racing and with a championship on the line. And Donington has a bit of a history for very, very tense championship deciders. I think we're in for a pair of great races this evening. Welcome everyone then, regardless of where you are tuning in from, and I hope that you're looking forward to the racing as much as I am. My name's Andy McEwen. I'll be talking you through the action, and plenty of it there will be, not just as far as what's going on in the races, but also what that means for the championship standings, which we'll to in a little bit more detail in a few minutes' time. Well, what we're seeing at the moment is a 20-minute practice session just coming to a close, after which we will head into qualifying. Let's just have a little look at what the format for the evening is going to be as the cars start heading out there and getting themselves up to speed in this qualifying session. 5-minute qualifying session then getting underway now. This will set the grid for race number 1, which will be coming your way in about 5 minutes or so just before 8:30 UK time. And we then have a little bit of a break, and we aim to get qualifying 2 underway at about 9:20. 9:30 will be when we get the second race of the day, the final race of the championship underway, and that could well be the one in which the championship is decided. Let's talk about that championship then as the cars start to get up to speed in this very brief qualifying session. It couldn't be much tighter between our top 2 drivers arriving here at Donington Park. However, one of them, sadly, has not arrived at Donington Park and will be sitting out this final round of the championship. So we were looking at it being a 3-horse race for the title. It is now down to just 2 drivers. Dan Blake, the Yearone Racing driver, leads the way on 155 points, and that's 155 total points. That is also his dropped score. Each driver drops their 2 worst race results and their 2 worst qualifying results, because you score points for qualifying in the PDC Racing Series. Dan Blake, though, already has 2 0 scores in each of those columns, so his 155 points that he scored this year is also his finalised dropped score. Put him 12 points clear of Ian Bailey, who had a bit of a disaster, particularly in race 2 last time out at Lime Rock Park, and that means that he has also now used up his drop scores, 12 points back, but actually has elected not to race with us tonight, unfortunately. So Dan Blake doesn't have to worry about Ian Bailey. He does, though, have to worry about Gavin Johnson. Gavin Johnson, one of the people responsible for setting up the PDC Racing series. He's also a championship contender. It's a bit of a long shot. He's 21 points back arriving at this first race, but he has 2 things going for him. Number 1, there are 72 points on offer tonight. There's a lot of points on offer for each race event. Number 2, he hasn't yet had a non-score. Gavin Johnson has scored points in every single race so far this year. He actually had a bad result last time out at Lime Rock Park in, I seem to recall, the second race of the day. Gavin Johnson, the first race, he had just 6 points scored in the first race before working his way through to second place in race number 2. But that meant that he got back a few points that he was previously dropping from earlier in the season. So as complicated as it all is, basically, Dan Blake, who leads the championship, has a 21-point cushion for Gavin Johnson, is third at the moment, but essentially his only championship rival coming into these final 2 races of the season. So 21 points the cushion, 72 still on the table, and the championship leader can't afford a bad result, because if Dan Blake were to have a non-finish or a non-point score, can't count it as a drop because he's already used those 2 up earlier on in the season. And then enough about points for now, but they will become relevant again in a few minutes' time, because as I made the point, at the end of this qualifying session, points will be awarded to the top 8 qualifiers. 10 points for qualifying on pole, 8 for second, then 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 for the rest of the top 8. And at the moment, it's Ben Sharp who has the fastest time with a 1 minute 20.00, 5/100ths of a second quicker than Dan Blake, the championship leader. Pip Hammond is third. Gavin Johnson Dan Blake's championship rival is 4th, and Carl Jacquelet rounding out the top 5, but the drivers very much still getting themselves up to speed, getting their tyres up to temperature. I was watching along during that practice session just before we went live, and quite a lot of drivers, as they left the pit lane, were having quite big spins down through the crater curves on cold tyres, so it takes a while to the tyres up to temperature and get the grip levels where the drivers want them. Results in some of the sideways antics we're seeing here from some of the drivers, although Gavin Johnson's car seems to spend more time going sideways than it does going forwards. At least that was the case at Lime Rock Park last time out, a track that he confessed he did not have that much experience at. However, Gavin in the real world is a very successful club racer in the UK. He has raced at Donington Park, he has won races at Donington Park, and Gavin Johnson therefore feeling a lot more confident coming into this Donington decider that he should be on the pace. Let's see if that's the case then, as Dan Blake, his rival, goes to pole position. Gavin Johnson joins him on the front row, so straight away the top 2 in the championship are the top 2 in the session. However, Dan Blake has a 0.3 of a second margin over Gavin right now, and in fact they're split. Ben Sharp and Ed Cooper, who in quick succession leapfrog in between the two of them. So the order now is Blake, Sharp, Cooper, Johnson and Alex Rivette. Here in the black number 25 car, a driver that I think we all need to watch out for in tonight's 2 races, Chris Dodulu, who is a GT racing ace from the UK, who has been competing recently in things like the British GT Championship. That's where I've seen him racing most recently. But Adam is pretty much a dab hand in whatever sort of racing car you put him in, and he will be competitive, I'm sure, in these Skip Barber racing cars. I'm not sure he's set a lap time yet, and with the checkered flag out, this will be his only lap. Actually, the only driver in that boat, though, David Ward and Abby Pulling. Abby was quick last time out, but she hasn't yet set a time either. So these drivers are putting all of their eggs in one basket. They've got to make this final lap count. At the top of the order, it's 1 minute 19.64 that they're trying to beat, and that was set by Dan Blake. Ben Sharp still second, Ed Cooper third, Ben Leach has gone 4th though now, and Chris Knox 5th. So Gavin Johnson's dropped all the way down to 6th position, and that means that already Dan Blake is starting to take points out of him, make that 7th, because David Ward goes into 6th place now as well. So Gavin Johnson needs to try and improve here late in the session. What can Chris Dodulu do though? For me to say, as he comes across the start-finish line, he will set his one and only lap of the qualifying session, go 13th, so perhaps regretting not going out earlier. But Abby Pulling pulls in out of the bag with 1 flying lap in the session. Abby Pulling has gone to pole position by 0.2 of a second, 1 minute 19.43 for Abby, but she is then instantly beaten by Ben Leach. Ben Leach goes quicker by nearly half a second. Where did he find that lap time? Ben Leach then goes to pole position with 1 minute 19.0. Dan Blake is apparently still out on track, but I'm not sure if he's on a flying lap. Ian Crosby comes across the line and improves from 12th to 10th and knocks Gavin Johnson out of the top 10. So Johnson will not only not score any points, but he's also going to be well down the order. His chances of beating this man, Dan Blake, in race 1, suddenly looking rather slim. And is he on a flyer? I think he might be. So let's see if he can improve. He's 3rd place at the moment, but with that late improvement from Ben Leach, he's 6.5 tenths off pole, and now he backs off. So either he'd already seen the checkered flag, or he elects not to try and improve any further on that lap. So dramatic qualifying session to start out the night's action, and it's Ben Leach then that takes the provisional pole position. Well, it will be the pole position now because the cars are gridding up ahead of our first 20-minute race. Abby Pulling will be alongside him on the front row, with Dan Blake, the championship leader, starting 3rd, and Ben Sharp alongside him on row 2. Ed Cooper is 5th alongside Chris Knox on the 3rd row of the grid. Carl Jacquelet qualifies well on row 4, a row which he shares with David Ward. Danny Holland has Ian Crosby for company rounding out the top 10, whilst Gavin Johnson needs to move forward from 11th on the grid to keep his championship hopes alive. He's got Alex Rivette for company on the 6th row, then 2 quick drivers, Pip Hammond and Adam Christodoulou, sharing the 7th row. Ian Best and Luke Handley are on row 8, Rick Selby and Freddie Hewitt on the 9th row, whilst Alex Hall and Porsche racer Carl Hazelton round out the top 20. It is then Ben Bateman, Kevin Bolland, Doug Hamilton, Lee Vaughan and Ian Court who will round out the 25-car grid. So going to do the maths just yet. We'll wait until the race settles down a little bit, but it's certainly looking good for Dan Blake. He will score 6 championship points for qualifying in 3rd, whilst Gavin Johnson scores nothing, but then he might be able now to count that as a drop score. Gavin Johnson, yeah, it's the first time he's qualified outside the top 10 so far this season, so he will score back a few points. Nonetheless, he seems to be a little off the pace, and that's not necessarily what we were expecting. Dan Blake, his rival, is a very, very experienced sim racer, real-world Mazda MX-5 racer as well, is Dan, and previous competitor in the Carbonate Hyundai Coupe Cup. So he's a man with a lot of racing experience, both virtual and real. Not going to be easy to beat here at Donington Park. Race 1 then is about to get underway. 20 minutes of action around the Donington Park National Circuit. And it is Ben Leach and Abby Pulling who make up the front row of the grid. There were some real late improvers there. We are about to go racing, though. I think we've got most, if not all, of the grid in position. The red lights go out, away they go, and who gets off the front row of the grid best? It looks like a pretty equal start, but it's going to be Leach that holds the advantage. Abby Pulling pulls across to the inside line to defend second place. Then the two Yearone Racing cars side by side for third. Dan Blake and Ben Sharp. Sharp is on the outside and will sweep into third. Ed Cooper gets sideways, spins in front of the pack. Surely someone will collect him. Well, maybe not, actually. They all did a pretty good job of avoiding him. Off wide, though, on the outside. Now, who was that? Gavin Johnson's dropping down. Yeah, Gavin Johnson's been off. So that is a real disaster for Gavin Johnson. Not only had he qualified out of the top 10, but he's running right at the back of the pack now in 22nd place. More contact up the road. And that's Dan Blake. Dan Blake is off as well. The top two in the championship, both in trouble on the opening lap. And Dan Blake has had contact somewhere down the Craner curves. And, well, in fairness, he's not the only one. Half the grid have failed to make it round the old hairpin. But there is Dan Blake. He's got the car back underway. He's behind Gavin Johnson, but neither of them are anywhere near the points after all of that. That was a chaotic start to the race, and it has had some serious championship ramifications. Let's see what happened to Dan Blake then as he goes down the inner curves. Well, I've just lost unfortunately there as he went through the left-hander, but Dan Blake definitely in trouble. And out of the bar. Here we are. Let's try this again. Just down the hill, just contact there through the left-hander, and I'm not quite seeing that properly, but Dan in all sorts of strife. Ian Court went around as well down at the bottom of the hill. He ends up in the gravel. There's a big pile up on the apex. Armour indeed then to start the race. There's Ian Court limping his way back along the exhibition straight to try and get to the pit lane with obviously some front right damage. Hi then, so Ben Leach leads the way, Abby Pulling is second and Ben Sharp is in third place. Ben Sharp made a good start there to go around the outside of his teammate Dan Blake into Redgate, and that kind of put Dan a bit further back than he'd like to be. Abby Pulling was a bit more sideways than she'd like to be through the old hairpin, bounces across the grass, hands second place away to Ben Sharp, and Ben was in the thick of the action last time out as well at Rock Park, so he's into second place now, looking for a race win if he can. Pulling's mistake though loses her momentum up the hill, and she's got another of those two pesky Year 1 racing cars in the mirrors. Carl Jacquelet is fourth, and he's got Alex Rivette for company. Jacquelet's gained 3 places, Alex Rivette's gained 7. He started outside of the top 10. He's in 5th place now and attacking Jacquelet round the outside, coming through Coppice Corner. It's a real shuffle then in the order towards the front of the field, but the fastest man on the track really is Ben Sharp, I'd say. He's catching the leader this time around. He's getting away now from this 3-car fight developing for third place. Leach and Sharp, your top two. They come across the start-finish line just half a second apart at the end of lap number 2. And what's going to happen between the two teammates here as they go into Redgate Corner? We'll find out in a moment because we focus now on Gavin Johnson. Gavin Johnson is 13th place right now. Dan Blake is right behind him in 14th. You have to be in the top 10 to score points. So right now, this is not working out particularly well for either of them, but Dan Blake cannot afford another non-point score. He will have to count this one. Gavin Johnson, if he doesn't score any points, will gain back his previous second lowest race score. So just looking back through the season, that means that regardless where Johnson finishes in this race, he will score championship points. So even if he didn't finish the race, he would still score 8 points as a drop score. Danny Holland is off meanwhile, and he's now going to drop out the top 10 behind both of those championship protagonists as well. So that's going to have some significance. Let's see what happens. Or very easy to do that. Just dips a wheel onto the grass coming out of the old hairpin, and that spits the car over to the right-hand side and heavily into the barriers. He have to pit for repairs, and that's going to take some time, I think, before he can get back out on the track. There is Danny then in the pit lane now after that off down at the old hairpin. We watch now Freddie Hewitt coming down into the chicane, and Freddie in the 17 car coming under pressure here from Rick Selby. This is 8th and 9th, and well, onto the grass goes Selby. There's a car in front of them going slowly, which I think, now that was a place Was it? Was that Ian Best has just been off? Someone's just been off through the chicane. It is all going on here. The positions are changing almost too quickly for the timing screen to keep up. But Freddie Hewitt does just about manage to keep Selby in the green car behind him. But this is now, for 8th position that they're dicing. Sharp, meanwhile, has got the race lead. So Ben Sharp has got himself ahead of Ben Leach. And Leach now needs to try and tag onto the gearbox of the race-leading car, use the slipstream to fight back, which is exactly what he does through Schwann's curve. Defending, the others behind could catch back up. Ben Leach goes right round the outside at McLean's corner. Ben Sharp leaves him plenty of room. That was good driving that from Sharp. He knows that he's still got the inside line for the next corner at Coppice, but it's easy to understeer wide here, and that's what Ben Leach is banking on. No chance of it though, because Ben Sharp hugs the inside line. No, he does drift a bit wide on the exit, and Ben Leach gets another run, this time to the right-hand side of the road, and that will become the inside of the chicane. They're dead even for the race lead coming towards the end of lap number 4, and Ben Leach is going to slide his way through ahead of Ben Sharp. Back down into P2, but now it's Sharp's turn to get the better run out of the corner, uses the slipstream, also runs into the back of the race leader. Meanwhile, Alex Rivette on the grass in the background we saw, but it is going to be, I think, Sharp back in front as they hit the brakes into Redgate corner. Indeed it is. He turns in, he sort of makes the apex, not quite as well as Ben Leach, but he'll hang on for now. Look, though, as if Ben Leach is going to let him off the hook here. There's going to be a real fight between these two, I think, throughout the remainder of the race. Right, back with Dan Blake. He has got pressure from David Ward. Blake is 13th now. I'm sure he was 12th last time we checked in, and he could be 14th soon because David Ward goes up the inside of him through Redgate corner. You have to imagine that Dan Blake has some damage from that contact on the opening lap. That must be affecting his pace now as they come down the hill. Aerial shot here showing the battle developing through the Craner curves, and Dan Blake hanging on, but that car clearly not going as quickly as it should be. There must be some sort of a handling issue caused by the contact he had earlier on. Gets a good run though on the 64 car there of Alex Hall, who was a bit slow out of the old hairpin. So both Dan and David Ward will go through, and you can see the damage there to the rear wing of Dan Blake's car. So definitely rear wing damage. That's going to be affecting the downforce levels on the cars. The place being gained. That's a lapped car getting out of the way. Kevin Boland in another one of the Year One racing cars, as Dan Blake now will lose this place, I think, to David Ward. David's up the inside through Coppice corner. They're being reeled in again now by Alex Hall, and Dan Blake could lose even more places here. He's already out of the points, but of course every place he loses puts him one place further away from the points, and his chances of scoring anything out of this race come less and less with every car that goes past him. David Ward gets through, that puts him into 12th place, Blake down to 13th, and Alex Hall behind him. What's going on at the front of the field? Ben Leach and Ben Sharp are still battling. They've got traffic in front of them, and Leach is back through now. I think I'm right in saying, although it was difficult to keep up with all of the lead changes that we had in the last lap or so, but I think it was Ben Sharp ahead last time we saw them. Now it's Leach, but by the time they get up towards the top of the hill, it could be the other way around again. They're almost bump drafting their way through Schwann's curve, this sweeping left-hander before McLean's. But Ben Leach holding on well for the time being. They're only a second and a half ahead of Abby Pulling though, and Pulling was faster than the pair of them on the previous lap. So black car there of Abby Pulling doing her mistake no doubt in the early laps through the old hairpin, but it's starting now to make amends for that. She'll almost be in the slipstream of the cars in front. Behind her, the fight for fourth still raging between Alex Rivette and Carl Jacquelet. And there you go, side by side. No, sorry, that's about marker, yes. So it's a bit early in the race to be worrying about back markers usually, but because of the loss we had at the start, there are quite a few cars a lap down already, and we're not even halfway through the race yet. Just reaching half race distance at the moment as we ride on board with fourth place man, Alex Rivette. To Redgate corner he goes, hits the brakes down through the gears. This lap set by the race leader that time around, 1 minute 19.0 by Ben Leach. Compare that to the qualifying times, and I can't because I've lost them, but Ben Leach did set the fastest time. I'm pretty sure it was 1 minute 18 that he set, so already going quicker than he, or almost as quick as he was in qualifying. Selby, meanwhile, is 9th position, and in 10th place, albeit 3 seconds behind him, is Gavin Johnson. So Gavin Johnson is into the points now. There you can see him coming down through the Crater curves. Dan Blake is still at the back of the group of cars behind him. So Dan Blake is 13th, but he's really in touch with the top 10. Car wide there behind. That was Ian Best losing out to David Ward, and I think that Dan Blake will go through as well. Yes, he does. So Blake sweeps around the outside. That puts him into 12th position. 2 places away from the championship points. I think Johnson's worst 2 scores of the year so far, a 6-pointer at Lime Rock Park and 8 points at the round before that at Silverstone. So essentially he needs to be scoring more points than that for this round to count. So he needs to get himself basically inside the top 6, I think, before the drop score situation changes. So right now, this would become a drop score for the Gavin Johnson Championship challenge. Now, what's going on there? Because that is Abby Pulling going ahead of Ben Sharp. Ben Sharp was very slow out of Redgate Corner. I was just thinking it must be a slowdown, which is the sort of instant track limit penalty that can be applied in iRacing. If you cut a corner or run too wide coming out of a corner and you're deemed to gain an advantage, then the iRacing stewards will put down on you straight away and make you slow down to give back the time you gained, then some usually. So either way, he was slow out of Redgate. That may well have been the reason. And Abby Pulling is into second and continuing to lap faster than the leader. In fact, she was 0.8 of a second faster than the race leader last time around. So Abby Pulling definitely in with a chance of winning this race. Dan Blake isn't, but he could yet get into the points. He's currently in 11th place. Ian Best in front of him in that rather striking number 13 car is in 10th. So this is a battle for one championship point between these two. And Dan has already used up his 2 drop scores. Every point quite literally counts in this race. And if he can get himself ahead of Ian Best, he might be able to catch David Ward. He can even catch Gavin Johnson, who's only a couple of seconds up the road, on board with the points leader then. Dan Blake down into the chicane they will go. I think he's going to take a lunge here. He can't afford any more contact because 1 or 2 points out of this race is certainly better than a non-finish for the one racing driver. He go ahead of Freddie Hewitt, who's in the pit lane. He's just pulled into the pits with damage, so he will go a lap down. Gate corner though, the 41 car also laps down, trying to stay out of the way, and doing so successfully for the time being, but it now finds itself just in front of that battle. That's Ben Bateman. Cooper here, he was one of the early spinners, coming through the first sequence of corners, and Ed has recovered to 12th actually, so he's not that far, he's about 4 seconds behind that pair in front, but if they keep on holding each other up, he could catch them. Cooper's previous lap, there was 1:21.4. Everyone ahead of him is going quicker right now. Doesn't look like he's going to be going up the order anytime soon. Could in fact come under pressure from Alex Hall, possibly, although Alex seems to have some damage to the back of his car. Ed Cooper then slides his way through McLean's. It's a real momentum circuit, this Donington Park National Track, and cars are not the most powerful, so you've really got to try and keep your speed up. Don't have that much grip either, though, so keeping your speed up through the corners is not easy to do. Hazelton through Starkey's corner of Porsche Boxsters and Ford XR2s, amongst other things, over the last year or so. Hazelton in the number 24 car, having a slightly lonely race at the moment, 12 seconds behind Luke Handley, but 19 seconds ahead of Lee Vaughan, so not much chance of his position changing either. Front, though, we have had a position change because somehow Abby Pulling has lost second place. She was going great guns and catching the race leader, but Ben Leach now leads from Ben Sharp. You can see in the background they've swapped over, so Sharp has caught back up to Abby Pulling and has gone ahead of her, so were gaining on the leader. They may no longer be if they're starting to battle over second place. Sharp did set the fastest lap last time around, though. Sharp with a 1:18.53. I believe is being shown on the stream. Sadly, that's not what I'm seeing, so I can't tell you how that happened, but Sharp is into second place ahead of Pulling with live pictures as they head into the chicane. So Sharp, the Yearone Racing cars, is going well tonight, using a lot of the curbs as well. The final chicane there, back out onto the pit straight they go once again. Ben Sharp having to go defensive. Now, Adam Christodoulou, I said I wanted to keep track of his progress tonight, but with so much else going on, we haven't really had much chance to do so. He is in a battle for 5th position, which is starting to heat up quite nicely. Carl Jacquelet has 5th position. Christodoulou wants it though, but he's also trying to hold on to his 6th place from Pip Hammond and David Ward, in fact, quite some way behind. I think there's a back mark possibly in here as well. And Carl Jacquelet was in 5th. He no longer is in 5th place though, because he runs wide through Redgate Corner and Adam Christodoulou goes through. Pip Hammond goes through in the red and white car, but I think the second black car in this group is a back marker. And Danny Holland, I want to say that probably is. I'll try and get a glimpse of the number for you in a second, if he doesn't throw the car at the scenery first. And Oh, it's Chris Knox, excuse me. It's another one of the black cars. So Chris Knox is indeed down the order some way after an early pit visit. He's 2 laps down, is Chris Knox. So only the black car at the front of this queue is fighting for position. But Chris Knox clearly every bit as quick as the cars around him and feels like flexing his muscles here, so to speak, and showing them what he can do. The moment he just had through McLean's, though, has allowed Pip Hammond to go through, and Pip was disappointed, I think, with his results last time out at Donington Park, but Pip, along with Gavin Johnson, have helped put this series together, and he definitely seems to be benefiting from a track that he has more experience at, and of course, just as I start praising him, he makes a right mess of the chicane and loses a place again. Is that a position? That's another map marker, isn't it? One of the Year 1 cars that's a lap or 2 down going through. Stays in position 7, does Pip? No, sorry, beg your pardon, that was Carl Jacquelet. So Carl Jacquelet goes up into 6th, Pip Hammond down to 7th. Be pulling, tries to get herself back into 2nd place through the old hairpin. Pulling and Sharp running a little bit wide there. And Ben Leach, your leader, is now 2 seconds clear. So yeah, as I suspected might be the case, Sharp and Pulling are starting to fall over each other a bit here in their fight for 2nd place. And that is now delaying them. On the previous lap, Sharp was fractionally quicker than the leader, but Pulling wasn't. Certainly not down all that much. Now, further back, I believe, we've had an issue, I think, for Gavin Johnson. Gavin's previous lap was a personal best, but all of a sudden, Dan Blake is ahead of him in 9th position. Matters relatively little, because Gavin, as I've made the point, will count this as a dropped score, but Dan Blake is starting to pick his way up the order quite nicely now. He's in 9th spot now. David Ward is right in front of him in 8th, but then David is nearly 10 seconds behind that Christodoulou, Jacquelet and Pip Hammond squabble. So the 8th place is as good as it gets for Dan Blake, but that would still score him a valuable 4 championship points. That minimum that Gavin Johnson will take from this race is 8. So at least the damage will be limited, but that gap of 21 points is going to come down. Already changed, of course, after qualifying, and we'll try and use the mid-session interval between races to semi-officially work out the points. But it's certainly going to go down to the last race at this rate, I think, despite the fact that Dan Blake out-qualified Gavin Johnson and is now ahead of him in the race, and in the points. It still doesn't look as though he's going to wrap it up before race number 2, because there are just so many points on offer. 25 for a win, 10 for pole position, drop scores to take into account as well. So too early for Dan Blake to start celebrating a championship just yet, even if he were to get himself ahead of David Ward. Tall, meanwhile, is in 15th place. Behind him is a back marker. That's sorry, in front of him, excuse me, is a back marker. 2 seconds behind Rick Selby. The green car is Alex Hall's next target, but the car is not exactly all that healthy, is it? No rear wing attached to that car. One of the drivers we saw in Melee at lap 1, and yes, the Durex sponsored car. We haven't seen motorsport for a while. I feel like it was probably a NASCAR driver last time, that particular sponsor. Racing anorak out there will, I'm sure, be able to tell me, but a fetching livery nonetheless, and it's going surprisingly quickly without a rear wing. Good in a straight line, I'd imagine, but maybe not handling quite as well as he would like. Handley is the next car back in 16th position, driver of the number 51 car. Duke is a multiple podium finisher in the Club Enduro Class B Championship. In fact, he finished 3rd in the championship last year. He's also raced in the very competitive Honda Civic Cup. So Handley, a rapid driver, but one of many who I think will be very, very glad to hit the reset button after this race and have another go in race 2. This battle, though, just refuses to die. Abby Pulling, every time she gets overtaken by Ben Sharp, she fights straight back. I still maintain, should be working together here, because battling away like this is costing them time to the race leader, Ben Leach, and they've both, at different points during the race, proven to be a little bit quicker than Leach if they are not running side by side. They're not listening to me, though, because they've changed places again through the final chicane, and Abby Pulling is back into 2nd place. It's very enjoyable, this battle, but I would rather watch a 3-way fight for the win than a 2-way fight for 2nd place, but well, maybe there's a reason I'm a commentator, not a racing driver, I don't know. Side by side again into Redgate Corner. And Ben Sharp, this time trying the outside line. That works as long as the car on the inside leaves you room, which Abby Pulling did. Is that she has the inside for Hollywood, but then the next corner is a left-hander, and you don't really want to be on the outside line here. This is brave stuff, side by side through the crater curves, and Ben Sharp gets a bit too much of the inside curve there, kicks the car sideways. loses momentum and can't complete the pass for the time being, but now he's back in the slipstream and looks to the inside through Starkey's, and it is a very, very good job that Abby Pulling sidestepped out of the way there, because I'm pretty sure they were going to make contact otherwise. Ben Sharp is on a committed drive here to try and get this second place away, but he's on the dirty side of the road through McLean's, and Abby Pulling just about keeps that black number 46 car in front. It's good racing going on here. We are inching towards the end of the race. We may just get one more lap in, I think. We're going to wait and see. It could be the last lap board. It could be the checkered flag they get, because as you can see on your screen, the 20 minutes have almost elapsed. Out of the chicane comes Ben Leach, your race leader, and he negotiates a back marker. Keep an eye on the starting gantry. Is it a checkered flag? Is it a last lap board? It is not a checkered flag, so we're going to get one more lap out of this one. One more time around the 2-mile Donington Park National Circuit for Ben Leach to survive, and for these two to entertain us all with their scrap over second place. Pulling once again holds the inside line, but watch for the switchback on the exit from Ben Sharp. Pulling's a bit wide over the curb. Sharp carries more speed off the corner, but Abby Pulling just keeps the car in front as they come through the crane of curves. You'd think that Ben Sharp would have learnt his lesson from a lap ago, that you can't go side by side through here. Still looking though, isn't he? Looking for any advantage, any opportunity to get through. That we've only got half a lap to go, and both of them just dipping a toe out into the dirt, coming out of the old hairpin, and Pulling once more leaves room to the left-hand side of the road. That's brave stuff, really, because it risks losing the place. There's a spin in front of them as well. One of the back markers has just got it all wrong through McLean's, and thankfully it was only a half spin. They've carried on, and this battle can continue unimpeded. Abby Pulling runs a bit wide out of McLean's at the inside. Goes Ben Sharp into Coppice corner. Careful not to bang wheels. They could both be out of the race if they do that. They just avoid contact, and this is going to run right the way down to the final corner and probably to the final few metres of the race. They are almost level going down the exhibition straight, with Sharp on the right-hand side of the road, Pulling on the left. Race leader is Ben Leach. He's about to take the checkered flag into second place. At the final corner goes Ben Sharp. Let's see if he holds it. Leach takes the checkered flag. It'll be a drag race to the line for second, but I don't think Pulling's going to get there. Ben Sharp uses the slipstream from a back marker and holds on for second. Well, it was a fantastic battle, and it stayed clean all the way to the end, which was good news. Pulling ends up third. Revette is in fourth position. Pip Hammond, I think, has got the better of Adam Christodoulou for fifth, and that will make Pip very, very happy. Here he comes. There's all sorts of chaos out of the final corner, and Dan Blake benefits. He gets himself another position at the end. I said that eighth was as good as it would get for Dan Blake. He actually takes seventh position, and that will be worth 2 extra championship points. 6 points for Dan Blake, finishing in seventh place. Gavin Johnson ends up in ninth position, and that will become a dropped score. So we'll have to break the abacus out between races and try and work out exactly what that means. But I'm pretty sure, mathematically, it's going to go down to the final race of the season in a few minutes' time. Waiting for the last few cars on the lead lap to come through. Carl Hazelton watching here in 16th place, and I think Ian Court is the only other lead lap car. In fact, he's just seen the checkered flag. Brilliant battling there right the way through. Ben Leach rather let off the hook, I think, by the scrapping that was going on for second place behind him, but that was an entertaining scrap, most definitely, between Ben Sharp and Abby Pulling, and just unfortunately having to give second best there to Ben Sharp into the final corner of the race. So everyone, I think, has now seen the checkered flag. Let's confirm the results from our penultimate race of the PDC Racing Series. Ben Leach is your winner, with Ben Sharp in second place, just getting the better of Abby Pulling at the flag. Then it was Alex Revette in fourth position, with Pip Hammond in fifth. Adam Christodoulou was sixth. Brilliant debut for him, with Dan Blake. What a drive. He was down in about 23rd place halfway around the first lap, and the points leader gets some valuable points for finishing in 7th place. Only actually 4 places below where he started in the end. David Ward was 8th, Gavin Johnson 9th. That's not really good enough, unfortunately. Ed Cooper in 10th. Outside the top 10, Ian Crosby and Ian Best, Rick Selby and Alex Hall, with Luke Handley in 15th. Carl Hazelton came home 16th. Carl Jacquelette, he was running inside the top 5 for a while, but finished down in 17th after a mistake. 18th for Kevin Boland, 19th for Danny Holland, and 20th for Freddie Hewitt, with Ian Court, Doug Hamilton and Lee Vaughan, I believe. And Ben Bateman, in fact, the last classified finisher, with Chris Knox 4 laps down, not being classified at the end. That was intriguing race, and as I say, points will now start to take on real significance. So qualifying points, I have to think aloud here as I update my spreadsheet. So in qualifying, we're just going to focus on Dan Blake and Gavin Johnson, I think then. So Dan Blake finished third in qualifying. That scores him 6 championship points. And Gavin Johnson finished in 11th place. So doesn't score anything for that. So he gets a 0. That will come, I think, the first non-score for qualifying for Gavin Johnson. And then in the race, it is Dan Blake ends up in 7th position, and that scores him 6 championship points. Gavin Johnson ends up in 9th. That scores him just the 2. So, according to the spreadsheet in front of me, which I hasten to add I did not create, so this is very much provisional, Dan Blake heads into the final race on 167 points, and that includes his 2 drops because he has 2 zeros to drop from earlier in the year. Gavin Johnson is on 144. So that is 23 points the advantage, with still about 36 or 35 points on offer. So it mathematically appears to be going down to the last race, but it would require non-points finish pretty much. Dan Blake, I think, and Gavin Johnson needs to find some serious speed and challenge for pole position and maybe even for a race win. We'll double check all the points between races, but that roughly, I think, is how it's going to stand with one more race to go. Remember, race 2 is the longer race, 30 minutes the duration. There is another 5-minute qualifying session coming up shortly as well, and that will be in your way relatively soon. They've got to give the drivers a bit of time to get themselves into the next server, but we were aiming hopefully to get that qualifying underway at about 9:15, and then the final race about 5 minutes after that. So be a tense Donington decider, as is so often the case here at Donington Park. It every time seems to provide really, really close championship battles. It's one of those tracks where things can go wrong for you, even if they're things that weren't of your own making. And that's what we saw for Dan there at the start of that race. Dan Blake caught up in contact down at the old hairpin, and he really can't afford that to happen again in race 2. So the opening exchanges of that second race are going to be very, very tense indeed for the points leader, as he just tries to keep himself out of trouble. A word as well to our sponsors, who have very kindly stepped in to keep us racing throughout the very difficult current situation with no real world motorsport available. This is a fantastic chance for some of the UK's best club racers, and indeed racers in general, to get together and have a bit of a fun once a week. But couldn't do it without our sponsors. RS Components, one of the key sponsors of the championship, a global supplier of products and services for an enormous range of industries. And they have been working actually with Pip and Gavin on their PDC built Porsche 924 and taking it around to British high schools to inspire and engage the youngsters and try and get them into either a motorsport career or perhaps a career in the wider field of engineering. We also thank Pingin, Bottomley Distillers, who produce Pingin and Rumcat, and they're currently producing hand sanitizers to help locally with the COVID-19 situation via their distillery as well. So an even more heartfelt thanks for their work outside of the PDC Racing Series. SR Electrical as well, a wholesaler specialising in electrical products. Steve Tuff, the owner, has been supporting these guys since 2016, and he's agreed very kindly to help out with the PDC Racing Series as well. And of course, PDC, the series sponsor, electrical engineers who set the race team up for these drivers under Jason Wood, and then, of course, our championship backers. So thank you to all of our series sponsors, and I believe that conversations are in the works already about a possible Series 2, and let's hope that is indeed we get to enjoy. I think we can momentarily head into a short break between the two races. Before we do, though, a reminder of some of the other racing action you can enjoy on Yearone Racing TV over the next few days. Monday nights are Formula 4 nights for the foreseeable future. Round number 2 of the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy will be on Yearone Racing TV at 7:30 on Monday night. Racing will be coming from the Brands Hatch Indy Circuit. On Tuesdays, as ever, it's the turn of the British Sim Racers MX5 2020 Pro Series to take centre stage. We will have 4 more exciting one-make races at 8 o'clock on Tuesday. And then on Wednesdays, the the anticipated Powermax Racing E-Series, which enjoyed its first races of the season on Wednesday to much success, and the next two races, also from Brands Hatch, will be taking place from 7:50 on Wednesday evening. So lots of racing action to keep you going through the lockdown, if you're here in the UK or wherever you are in the world indeed, on the Yearone Racing TV. We may not be able to go racing in the real world, but Yearone Racing TV always have your back. Will always have some form of racing entertainment for you to enjoy. We've got more of that on its way in a little while. We need to go and change servers. We'll be back in just a few minutes' time, though, with qualifying and the final race of the racing series, the championship, going right down to the wire. Want to miss it? Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for joining us for our final race of the inaugural PDC Racing Series here from the Donington Park National Circuit, where championship, by our rough calculations, is going down to the wire with one more qualifying session and one more race still to go to crown our first ever PDC Racing Series champion. It will be either Dan Blake or Gavin Johnson. That much we knew before the first race got underway. But the question always was, what would the point situation be going into race number 2? Well, if you're only just joining us, you missed a cracking first race, a dramatic first race, which saw both Gavin and Dan in trouble on the opening lap. They both fell right down the order towards the back end of the top 20, but both were able to work their way into the points. Gavin Johnson managed to scrape himself a 9th place finish, whilst Dan Blake actually overtook him and went into 7th place at the last corner. So Dan Blake able to score 6 championship points, and when Johnson 2 championship points. That was actually Gavin's worst finish of the year, though. So that, along with a 7th place finish last time out at Yearone Park, now becomes a dropped score, and that means he gains back the 8 points that he was previously dropping from the Silverstone races. So he basically ended up scoring more points than he actually looked like he would do in that previous race. And by the provisional calculations done, I hasten to add, not by me, but by a spreadsheet algorithm, it is now Dan Blake on 167 points, followed by Gavin Johnson on 144 points, so 23 points in it, with still 35 points remaining, because we have 10 points available for pole position, and the top 8 in qualifying will score points, and 25 points available for the race victory in race number 2. Race 1 saw a very entertaining battle for the lead early on in the race between Ben Leach and Ben Sharp, before Ben Leach was able to reclaim the lead and pull away from Ben Sharp, despite it being Sharp that was actually the fastest man on the track in the early stages. Sharp then ended up losing 2nd place to Abby Pulling after having to slow down after exceeding track limits through Redgate, and the pair of them continued to dice throughout basically the final third of the race, changing positions almost by the corner, with Abby Pulling holding 2nd place until the final corner, when Ben Sharp went up the inside and took it from her. So it ended up with Leach winning the race, Sharp 2nd and Pulling in 3rd, whilst Alex Rivette was 4th, and Pip Hammond, who says his hands are still shaking after the battle that he had with Adam Christodoulou and Dan Blake on the final lap, he was able to get himself a 5th place finish, was Pip. Pip has definitely improved from last week at Yearone Park, which was the first time that he'd actually got to the end of any of the races. He's had a slightly troubled season so far, and that place finish will actually, it is a personal best finish of the year so far for Hammond, his previous best being a 6th place finish at Silverstone. So Pip starting to come good right at the end of the season. Abby Pulling we're on board with. Abby has, I think I'm right in saying, not been with us throughout the entire season, but has been quick when she has raced in the racing series, and Abby got herself that podium in the previous race, is I think her first podium finish of the year, so looking to try and replicate that in race 2 if she can. She had headed for the pit lane in this practice session, which has just coming up to 6 minutes, just over 6 minutes remaining, which is just an opportunity basically for the drivers to make sure they're all back in the server. I think the majority of them are. We're waiting for a couple possibly to rejoin us. This man's here though, getting every bit of practice in that he can. He sustained damage in contact on lap 1 in the previous race, did Dan Blake. Damage to the rear of the car, possibly damage to the front as well. But that didn't actually hinder his progress too much. He was able to work his way from 23rd place after the contact to 7th place by the flag. That means that realistically all he has to do is score some points from qualifying and the race. In fact, in theory, if Dan Blake were to take pole position, could actually win the championship before the race gets underway, because Gavin Johnson would need to be somewhere in the first couple of rows, I think, to realistically keep his championship hopes alive, or mathematically even. Realistically, he needs to beat Dan Blake in both qualifying and the race in order to start closing the gap, and is twice a winner so far this season, whereas Gavin Johnson's been Mr. Consistency because he hasn't won a race, but he's been on the podium 5 times now, has Gavin Johnson. he's in the gravel at the moment, actually, going up towards McLean's. But Gavin, when he's not crashing, is usually doing quite well in the races. Definitely races better than he qualifies, does Gavin. That seems to be the case. Whilst Dan Blake, oh, that's what happened. He was used as a launch pad for one of the cars behind. Now, who was that then? Out of brakes right behind our championship. I'm not too sure. It was a purple car, which leads me to suspect it might have been Doug Hamilton, because he's, I think, the only purple car out there. But that was a scary moment. Thankfully, it's happened in practice, not in the race. So yeah, to my point, Dan Blake twice a winner and 5 times on the podium of the 9 races we've had so far. But he's had 2 non-finishes in those scores. That is what's kind of that he's been on the back foot a little bit, knowing that he can't afford another non-finish because he's already using up his 2 drop scores. So Blake, he needs to be careful on the opening lap, and to that point, a good qualifying effort would be really useful for Dan to try and possibly avoid some of the early drama that he was involved in race 1. Best, we're following through Starkey's corner now. Best has 6th place in the championship coming into this final 2 races of the year. Excuse me, and he was actually our first race winner of the year. He won round number 1 at Alton Park and took the fastest lap as well, did Ian, but then since then has not returned to the podium. So Ian, we know what he's targeting here, most definitely. Wants to get himself back into the top 3 if at all possible. I missed out on the points in the previous race, though, down in 12th place, but one of the best liveries in the field, that's for sure. Oh dear, that wasn't one of the best lines through the chicane, just runs a bit wide onto the grass, but does it all together. Ian Best will be one to watch for here, I think. So too will Ed Cooper of the number 16 car, a multiple race winner in the Classic Stock Hatch series in his now iconic yellow Vauxhall Nova GSI. Similar colour that he's running, in fact, on his Skip Barber Formula 2000 car in the PDC Racing series. What I didn't realise until I read the stats page that has been put together for me by Pip Hammond and Gavin Johnson is that he's been racing in that championship for over 14 seasons. And he was a bit of a stalwart in the 750 Motor Club's Classic Stock Hatch Championship. I realise he's been around for quite that long. So Ed Cooper, a true clubman racer in every sense of the word, but pretty rapid as well. We said multiple race winner in that category, and that is a competitive category as well, make no mistake about it. Not easy to win in Classic Stock Hatch racing, and some of the closest racing you will see anywhere in the UK. Leach slows down as he heads through Redgate Corner. We focus now on Ian Court in the blue and white number 77 car. Ian currently 16th fastest in this practice session. Ian Court also had a few struggles in the previous race. Most people did, though, really. About a third of the grid, I think, were involved in that contact through the crater curves and full hairpin. And that it caught up some of our championship challenges, but lots of other drivers as well, just looking to end their season with some good results. And whispers of a second season looming as well, many of them wanting to try and build some momentum before the second season of PDC Racing Series action gets underway. Handley, 12th fastest right now, driver of number 51, who is a former Civic Cup racer. It's a little bit different, not a front-wheel drive tin top, but a rear-wheel drive single-seater. And just struggling to get to grips with it, maybe. Abby Pulling isn't, though. She's fastest in this practice with 118.48, and definitely looking for that first victory of the season. Dan Blake's second, so he's signalling his intent right now, whilst Gavin Johnson's all the way down in 15th place. But as I made the point earlier, this does not count towards anything this practice session, but we are now just 45 seconds away from our final qualifying session of the season getting underway, and that definitely does count for something. 10 championship points available for pole position, 8 for second, 6 for third, then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 for the remainder of the top 8. So championship points are more valuable now as we get towards the end of the season. For the Donington decider, Vaughan was in the wars as well, in the number 337 car in the previous race. He rounds McLean's, though, on what will be his final practice lap before the qualifying session gets underway. To happen in about 2 seconds, because the checkered flag is out, and in a practice session it's pretty much an instant end as well. So for what it's worth, pulling was fastest from Blake second, then Sharp, Hewitt, David Ward. Alex Hall posits himself in the old hairpin gravel trap to end his qualifying session. Cars are returned to the pit lane, and now qualifying gets underway for the final time this season, and the two we really need to watch for here are Dan Blake and Gavin Johnson. There will be plenty of other drivers in the mix for pole position. It may be that neither of those two drivers realistically are in the fight for pole, but they will still need to try and outdo each other and try and, particularly for Gavin Johnson, outscore Dan Blake and start shrinking that gap. No merit, not just as a result of falling back on the drop scores. A real land rush there as everyone tried to get out of the pit lane together, on board with Adam Christodoulou, who makes his way down the curve. You see, I've spent far too long commentating alongside Joe Osborne in the British Championship. Now, I physically cannot say Adam's surname correctly, the influence Joe Osborne's had on me, but oh dear, it's started already. The carnage in front of us, and oh, how did he miss that? Adam Christodoulou. Well, he may have a ridiculously long surname, but he also has ridiculously quick reflexes there to avoid more chaos now through the right-hand trim McLean's as well. And Adam did a very good job to avoid all of that then, as it all kicked off in front of him. But he's, I don't think he got any contact. I think he's able to carry on and start setting lap times, but it really is a bit unnecessary to be driving into each other on the outlap in a 5-minute qualifying session, because remember, they don't have long to get on with this. Lap times here are in the 1 minute 18, 1 minute 19 brackets, so you're only going to get about 3 or 4 flying laps in, and of course, by the time you have the tyres up to temperature, you really only have 1 or 2 proper flying laps. It is a 30-minute race, so you've got time to work your way through the order if you do have a bad qualifying session. Those championship points are really of significance. Adam Christodoulou slides his way through Redgate Corner. I don't think he's quite got the tyres up to temperature yet, and driving on the grass is not the best way to do so. 54 behind him is Alex Hall. He could be quite rapid. He was showing some good pace towards the second half of the previous race, despite missing that rear wing. Got intact now, thankfully, for this qualifying session. Fire smoke ahead of them there as they came through the old hairpin, but a dust kicked up by both of them. Brilliant save from Alex Hall. Slithers his way through. What is going on with Dan Blake, I wonder, and Gavin Johnson? They are our 2 championship antagonists, and are either of them setting good sector tyres? Gavin Johnson, I think, has set a purple sector somewhere along the line. We're following Dan Blake now in the Yearone Racing car. In purple and black number 27 machine turns through Coppice Corner. Yet nobody has set a realistic time. We've had 1 minute 33s from Ian Crosby and Carl Hazleton. Go another 15 seconds quicker than that, really. Dan Blake comes down into the chicane. The traffic in front of him, that's the number 17 car, and he'll be hoping that that car doesn't hold him up too much. That's Freddie Hewitt, though, who's a pretty rapid driver. So that should be okay for Dan, who comes across the line now. His first lap of the session. Good enough for third only, 1 minute 20.2, so he should be able to get another second and a half out of that, I reckon. Gavin Johnson's best lap of 121.4 at the moment, though, so we're definitely not down to the sort of times that will decide this one, I think. Blake accelerates down the hill, 95 miles an hour through Hollywood. He's going to be over 100 by the time they hit the Crater Curves. Left-hander, 109 miles an hour on the apex, keeps on accelerating to 110, about 80 at the apex through the old hairpin. One of his teammates is off, and oh my goodness me. Carnage. Now, did he avoid damage there, Dan? I didn't quite catch the restart of that. But Dan, I think he might have got away with that. That was very close, though. Cars flipping over right next to him. As I think you can tell, it's kind of the last day at school, isn't it? Last qualifying session of the year, and everyone is going for it perhaps a little bit too hard. And if he did get any damage, well, he can't really afford that, because that would be a session over. He will have time for one more lap. Had he have had to pit there to fix the car, he wouldn't have had time to get back out there and complete an outlap. Ben Leach does 1 minute 19.2. That is our first sub 1 minute 20 second lap of the session. Gavin Johnson goes second with 1:19.85. And what about Dan Blake? Did he get delayed by that? Surely he did. Yeah, 1 minute 20.2. He's down in, sorry, 20.5. So it wasn't even an improvement that time for Dan Blake. Gavin Johnson was second. He's now third because Ed Cooper has gone ahead of him. There's Ed going through Redgate Corner with a 1:19.66. That's 0.44 of a second off the provisional pole time. But advantage so far, Gavin Johnson. Dan Blake has one more opportunity to try and improve. Right now, he would score just 2 championship points, whilst Gavin Johnson would score 6 for finishing in third place. But there's every chance that these positions are going to change again. There is your provisional pole sitter, though. Ben Leach, the race 1 winner, who could become the first driver all season to do the double and win both races at the same event. We've had multiple winners this year, but we haven't had anybody winning 2 races in the same night. Leach, that way about it at the moment. He's on provisional pole, 1:19.2 the time to beat, but be pulling now improves and goes second, just a quarter of a second behind him, so he might have to improve further here. Comes out of the chicane. He's got pole at the moment, but he'll really want to make sure of it. Is he going to improve upon that 1:19.22? The answer is, waiting for the timer screen to update. It doesn't look like he is, though, so that's going to be the same. No improvement there for Ben Leach. David Ward goes second, though, so that's a really good time. Just 2/100ths of a second off pole position. What about Dan Blake? He comes across the start-finish line. He goes into third. He pulls it out of the bag at the end of the session. What about Gavin Johnson? He improved his time last time around to 1:19.8. Yeah, that was his final lap, so he's not going to improve. He will be behind Dan Blake on the grid, and Dan Blake is going to outscore him again in this qualifying session. Waiting to see if anyone else is going to come through and upset the order, but I don't think they are. Ben Leach appears to have the pole position, but most importantly, Dan Blake is third, and Gavin Johnson is in second place. So we'll go through the official grid in a moment. Let me just update my spreadsheet. There's Dan Blake the third, scores 6 championship points. Gavin Johnson for 7th place will get just the 2. What does that do to the gap then? It means that Dan Blake's on 173 provisionally and Gavin Johnson 146. So that is, I think that's enough, potentially, for Dan Blake to do it, because are only going to be 26 points, in theory, still available, because there's a point for the fastest lap in each race as well. So 173 minus 146. Yeah, that's 27 points, the advantage. So, visually, again, we'll wait for official confirmation after the races, be that Dan Blake has already done enough, but he'll want to make absolutely certain of it in this race, that's for sure. He won't have had time to do the maths yet, I'm sure. Let's run through the grid then very quickly as the cars start to arrive on it to go racing. It's Ben Leach and David Ward on row 1, Dan Blake and Abby Pulling on row 2, with Ed Cooper and Alex Rivette on the 3rd row, Gavin Johnson and Rick Selby row 4, Ian Best and Adam Christodoulou make up the 5th row of the grid, with Jackalette and Ben Sharp on row 6, Freddie Hewitt and Ian Crosby row 7, Ben Bateman and Luke Handley row 8, with Cole Hazelton and Paul Warren on the 9th row, whilst the top 20 are rounded out by Dan Holland and Chris Knox. And it will be not Graham Sessman, 21st, as my timing screen is telling us, but Kevin Boland, with Pip Hammond alongside him, then Lee Vaughan, Doug Hamilton, Alex Hall, and Ian Court. At least I hope Graham Sessman isn't 21st on the grid, because he's supposed to be directing the coverage we're watching right now, and I'm sure he will continue to do an excellent job of that for the next half an hour or so, as the final race of the PDC Racing Series is just a few moments away. Blake, as I say, won't have had a chance to do the maths yet, and even the maths we've done are very much not official yet, so he will have one goal here, that is to beat Gavin Johnson, and ideally win the race if he can, to make absolutely sure of the championship. 8 minutes of racing then ahead of us in the PDC Racing Series here from Donington Park. Ben Leach and David Ward on the front row of the grid. David Ward would really love to round his season out with a race victory here if he can. Dan Blake, the Year 1 racing driver, 3rd on the grid, and the highest placed of the several Year 1 racing cars that we have with us for this race meeting. Continue to wait for the drivers to make their way onto the grid. One driver, I believe, who hasn't yet made his way onto the grid, but once the car Once iRacing has caught up with what's going on, we should be ready to go racing, and I think we are now. So the final countdown, they're getting underway. Ben Leach and David Ward on the front row together. The lights go out for the final time. We're away and racing in the PDC Racing Series. Good start made by all of our front runners, I think. Will Dan Blake go up the inside of David Ward for second? He's going to have a look at it, I think, as we head towards Redgate Corner. He's on the preferred line, but how much of a risk will he want to take? Well, enough of a risk going to second place. Anyway, he moves ahead of David Ward, and Abby Pulling tries to follow him through, but I don't think he's been able to do so. No doubt about the leader, though. It's Ben Leach that heads the field through Hollywood. Blake is second, third for Ward, fourth for Pulling, fifth is Ed Cooper, and sixth for Alex Rivette by the looks of it, whilst Gavin Johnson has settled into seventh place, and there's contact, and that's Rick Selby off the road in the background, and a few others have been delayed in all of that as well, unfortunately. Rick Selby, though, off the road. Number 51 is off too, and being equally delayed. That's Luke Handley, Doug Hamilton, and Lee Vaughan, I think, were involved too. They've dropped to the bottom of the timing screens, but a slightly cleaner start this time than we had before. Spoke too soon. Carnage in the background. Cars going around left, right, and centre. Cars upside down. Why on earth did I say anything? Adam Christodoulou's in that, unfortunately. Danny Holland as well. Carl Hazelton, Freddie Hewitt. They've all been delayed, and quite sure which was the car that I saw catapulting its way towards the exit on the outside of the corner, but that car most likely is going to be out of the race for a while, getting repaired. Jack Lettler focusing on there, going into the chicane front of the field. It is Dan Blake who has the lead, apparently. What's gone on here? Yeah, damage looked to the nose cone of Ben Leach's car, and Dan Blake has gone through, and they're almost three abreast for the race lead into Redgate Corner. Blake on the inside, in the middle is Ben Leach, the pink car to the outside is David Ward, and Ben Leach does not want to give up the race lead here. He doesn't care that he's racing one of the championship challengers. He just wants the race victory, and he's counting on the fact that Dan Blake isn't going to want to fight him too hard here. Through the crane as they go. Leach on the inside line, gets sideways right in front of them. Abby Pulling joins in as well. Four cars as one into the old hairpin. That surely won't work. And Dan Blake gets sideways and he's off. He hits Abby Pulling, and Dan Blake is off the road with lots of damage done to the car. And now all of a sudden, if he has not wrapped it up, he is going to be starting to feel really tense about the point situation, because surely that car is not handling right. Needless to say, Gavin Johnson's gone ahead of him. A lot of people have gone ahead of him, and Dan Blake is down to 15th position, so he hasn't lost quite as many places as he did in race one when he went off at the old hairpin, but he's certainly fallen down the order with almost certainly some damage done to the car as well. And poor Abby Pulling was completely innocent there. Dan was out of control, and Abby sadly was at the wrong place at the wrong time. Gavin Johnson now trying to capitalise on the opportunity, diving up the inside though, was one of Dan Blake's teammates. That was Ben Sharp, who now goes after Alex Rivette's third place. So Gavin Johnson is ahead of the Yearone Racing car that he really needs to beat. He's got two of Dan's teammates right in front of him, so he's not really in a particularly secure position either. And Ian Best, our first race winner of the year from Donington Park, is right behind him as well. That's what happened to Dan. Looked, got a wheel on the grass. Oh, and it also caught. Who was that got caught in that? One of his teammates, I think, had contact too. Rivette sneaking through. Let's try and see it again. It is, yeah, it's Rivette, isn't it? So Rivette just got a bit of that too. Remember, in fact, he's just lost third place. I can see on the time screen to Ben Sharp. So possibly that damage starting to take effect now. And Blake had in 11th place at the moment, but so he's outside the points, but only one place outside the points. Chris Knox is about 2.3 seconds in front of him, so he could yet get back into the points. He might not have to get in the points, but it all depends on how the drop score situation is going to work out at the end of the year. Right then, so another dramatic start to the race. They always seem to be, don't they? Ben Leach leads the way by nearly 2 seconds over this man David Ward in second, and Sharp and Alex Rivette are still debating third. In fact, they appear to be side by side into the final chicane there. As they come out of the chicane, guess what? They're still side by side. Gavin Johnson's also got Ian Best company in their fight for 5th and 6th places. Across the line they go. Rivette officially has third place at the line, but by 3/100ths of a second. He is on the inside line. On the outside, it's Ben Sharp. I'm just going to try and slip back to the inside on the exit of the corner. That means that Ian Best closes in, because he's now got the better of Gavin Johnson, who's down to 6th. And Gavin Johnson is in danger here, I think, of losing more places, because he's not that far ahead of Ian Crosby, and we know that he's pretty rapid. The place battle then heads out of the old hairpin. Ian Best just runs a little bit wide, and Gavin Johnson saying between races that he basically just needs to go for it. He needs a really good result in this race, regardless of what happens to Dan Blake. He will have no doubt seen what happened to Dan, so he will be all guns blazing now for a good finish. The Year 1 cars are determined to have an accident, and they're all being caught by Ian Crosby. As I suggested, Crosby's taken about a second out of them already on this lap, so this huge group of cars is about to get even closer. Ian Crosby, sponsored by Specsavers, he doesn't need a particularly strong pair of glasses though to see what's going on in front of him, because he's right there with them as they head down the back straight. Weaving around is Alex Rivette in 4th place, trying to break the toe. That ain't going to work because they're almost on his gearbox as it is. And Ian Crosby trying to pick his way through. Ian Best is sideways. This is all going on right in front of Gavin Johnson. Absolutely can't afford contact here. And so he finds himself 3 abreast into Redgate Corner and thinks, this ain't good. He needs to try and get past these 2 and get himself into a bit of clean air if possible. Best looks to have backed out a bit. So now Johnson's just got to go around the outside of Alex Rivette. But Best is back at the inside line at Redgate Corner. And I think by the time they head into the crane of curves, he should be back through. Oh, Johnson's got his nose in front, in fact. And the next corner's a left-hander, so that should suit the number 9 car a little bit better. And yeah, he sweeps through middle part of the graded curves, gets a bit sideways over the curb, which many drivers have done over tonight's 2 races. Towards Starkeys, Johnson a bit wide though. Best starts to build up another attack to take the place back here into McLean's. He's not quite alongside, but there's a small overlap maybe. Is Johnson going to turn in? Yes, he is. He holds on to the spot and now sets his sights on Alex Rivette in front of him. They all run wide onto the grass. Not the fastest line through McLean's corner, but it seems to work as long as everyone else does it, I suppose. And Johnson tries now to pull away in his newly reacquired 5th position. Dan Blake, by the way, back into the points now. He's into 9th place. The score situation being quite precarious for him. Every point that he can get from this race. He's 4 seconds, though, behind Carl Jacquelet, so some work to do to close that gap. But once he catches Carl, he's actually on the tail, really, of this 5th place battle, because they're all quite close together. Which is on Freddie Hewitt, so I'm told, who has dropped down to 16th place, started 3 places higher than that, in 13th spot. Back to live pictures now, as Gavin Johnson tries to find a way past Alex Rivette, and a good job actually of getting away of from the cars behind him here, isn't he, Gavin? He's built up nearly a second over in Best behind. And they head up through Bont's curve. Johnson needs to get on with this though, because he is in 5th place, but 7 or 8 seconds off the race lead, and really nothing but a win will do in this one. He has got a bit longer to get it done this time around though. This is, as I made the point, a 20-minute race instead of, 30-minute race instead of the 20-minute race we had earlier on this evening. So he's got a bit more time to play with here as Gavin. Can he afford to wait too long here? Once he catches Rivette, he needs to try and make the move stick. With every place and every point that Dan Blake is starting to recover from this race, it all kind of becomes a little bit less relevant, really. To the line they go then. The Year 1 racing car of Rivette is 4th. The white car is Gavin Johnson in 5th. Then it's Ian Best and Ian Crosby dicing over 6th position, with Carl Jacquelet, easy for me to say, in 8th position. Some changing behind, I think, between the Ians maybe, because Best ran wide, but Crosby didn't quite slip up the inside. This man on the track right now is Dan Blake. He just set a personal best lap, 118.81, which was fractionally quicker than the leader. He is 2 seconds now behind Carl Jacquelet, who's about 1 3/4 seconds behind that Alex Rivette, Gavin Johnson, Ian Best and Ian Crosby scrap. So Dan Blake is a coming here, and again might be able to bounce back here on early race dramas. Regardless of what happens here, we'll definitely be having a chat with him after this race, I think, find out what was going on. Jacquelet runs a bit wide. That will help Dan Blake, gets him a bit closer. He might be able to pick up a hint of a slipstream on the exhibition straight. As that happens, in these cars, that will close that gap pretty quickly. They do give off quite a tow, with the all-Ian battle for 6th place. Best still ahead of Crosby. Ian Best not having his best race here at the moment, not quite reaching the highs of that race victory at Donington Park. And as I said earlier on, hasn't had a podium since then. Gavin Johnson has, though, and he wants another one here. He's going up the inside of Alex Rivette for 4th into Redgate Corner. It's the tight line. Rivette leaves him room. the exit of the corner, they're pretty equal as well, but the wider line through the corner for Rivette gives them a bit more momentum off the turn. These two are now over 10 seconds off the race lead, so Johnson, I've said, has to do this quickly if he can. He certainly looks a bit quicker than Rivette. If he can maybe force a mistake out of the Yearone Racing driver, maybe that might be the easiest way to go through without delaying himself too much. But riding on board again with Johnson up the hill, pulls to the left-hand side of the road. There's what's left of a car parked on the left-hand side of the road, but no yellow flags. Racing can continue, and Johnson is now really starting to hound Alex Rivette. He takes the wide line into McLean's, cuts back to the late apex, looking to the inside into Coppice corner. Didn't carry the speed off the preceding turn, though. Has to settle back into the wheel tracks of the 113 car. Behind him, it is Ian Crosby now into 6th. So Ian Crosby has got himself ahead of Ian Best. And Dan Blake has got past Carl Jacquelet. So Blake is into 8th place now, and only 2 seconds behind. There you can see in the background, the 2 Yearone Racing cars have swapped positions now. Dan Blake into 8th. Jacquelet, I'm sure, didn't make it too difficult for his teammate. Will try and follow him. In fact, Jacquelet appears to have back further, has he? Or no, I think he's still there, but he's... anyway, Gavin Johnson having another look here at the inside of Rivette. He tried to pull a lap ago, but Rivette seemed like that high, wide and handsome line through Redgate Corner, and he's good speed down the hill as a result of that, and therefore Johnson has to try and get inventive, has another peek to the inside into the old hairpin. It's the apex, which the car in front of him very much doesn't do, and Alex Rivette loses a load of momentum out of the old hairpin, and this time surely Johnson should be able to get himself up the inside into McLean's corner. On the outside line here a lap ago, he's now in the preferred place, but they're both being reeled in rapidly by Ian Crosby. Johnson up the inside, gets sideways, gets a nerf in the tail for his troubles. He's in the gravel, and Johnson is up 1 and down 2, because that little bit of contact he was having whilst he was already sideways has sent him wide, and he's got it all to do once again. A bit of bodywork falling off the front of Rivette's car there as he intentionally ran into the back of Gavin Johnson's car. So there wasn't really much that he could have done to avoid the contact in that instance. And this whole group getting closer together, and of course Dan Blake could catch them. Well, I think it's almost certainly will catch them before the end of the race. It's now Ian Crosby, though, who's on the tail of Alex Rivette. You just can't escape in these cars around this circuit because of the effect of the slipstream. So no matter who it is that's on his tail, Alex knows he's going to have to defend into Redgate Corner, which he does, and so Ian Crosby tries to get the switch back. In fact, he goes for the wide line out of the corner, sells him the dummy almost, but that leaves the door open for Gavin Johnson. Gavin Johnson pulling alongside, back alongside Gavin as the PDC sponsored car heads down the hill. Got the inside here of the 48 machine into the old hairpin. No, he can't because Crosby's late on the brakes, but he's too late on the brakes. That's exactly what Rivette did a lap ago, and Johnson now tries to force his way alongside, which he does. He make a slightly better go of this overtake this time on the inside at McLean's corner. He's on the brakes, gets the car a bit sideways, not quite as sideways as a lap ago though, and not only does he go ahead of Ian Crosby, but Ian Best will try to do so as well, and then it is Dan Blake. Dan Blake is with them now, so we've got about 5 cars together here fighting over 4th place. Oh, Ian Crosby runs out wide, and he loses a place to Ian Best, he loses a place to Dan Blake, and Dan Blake is now into 7th position, just 1 car between himself and Gavin Johnson. This now, we can almost certainly say, would be enough for Dan Blake to wrap up the title. It's plain and simply, definitely he's going to win the championship, but I think even a couple of places behind him should be enough. It's sideways though out of the final chicane there. He's in the toe of Ian Best in front of him though. Will he have a go on the brakes into Redgate? He looks to the inside, he's later on the brakes, he dives for the apex, and as long as he stops the car he might be able to make it stick, but there's some real speed to be found around the outside at that first corner. Even though that's the dirty part of the road, I think enough drivers are using it that it's keeping it fairly clean, and you can really get the power down nice and early, and Ian Best uses that to great effect there to zoom back in front of Dan Blake. Side-by-side exchange has cost them a few car lengths, not only to the cars in front, but also to Ian Best, who's trying to recover a little bit behind them. Into Clanes they go. It's in 4th place now as well, so he's found a way past Alex Rivette, but Rivette is trying to fight back again. Coppice they go. Johnson finally gets himself to the front of the queue, but every place he gains, Dan Blake looks like he's gaining them as well. No, he's not quite at the inside of Ian Best, but he looked for the move coming out of Coppice corner, and now Gavin Johnson is finding out what it's like to be punching the hole in the air for those behind. slipstream, Alex Rivette is able to come straight back at him. Round the outside through the chicane, Gavin Johnson clobbers the curbs there through the rubber chicane. He's been careful, he doesn't get a slowdown penalty. Have avoided it for the time being, but they're all fanning out behind him. Dan Blake is in the mix here somewhere as well, and Dan is going to the outside of Ian Best, whilst Ian Crosby goes to the inside. They're three abreast. They're all catching Alex Rivette into Redgate corner. Right round the outside goes Ian Best, and I think he's going to definitely gain a couple of places out of this. Carl Jacquelette is with them too, and this is a commentator's worst nightmare because we've got three of the almost identically liveried Year1 racing cars absolutely together now in this group of 6 cars diving down for the old hairpin. This, I remind you, is the fight for 4th place. They turned in and sideways there. That is Blake. That's Dan Blake. He'd fallen down the order slightly already, and now he's right to the back of that pack again into 9th position. And I think he might have just got a wheel on the grass there as he turned in. It goes down to 9th place. Well, let's see what happened at the top of the hill first. He goes around the outside through Redgate, and that is risky place to be, but it can work. Ian Crosby is the man at the inside in the 48 car. He goes through. Ball with Crosby then as they go down the hill. Now on board with Blake. Gets the curb there, but that's okay. And then what happens? Yeah, gets a wheel on the grass, and that is not a place that you want to be grass tracking. Did well to hang on to it, actually, especially given the fact this car, I'm pretty sure, sustained some hefty damage at the start of the race. Opening laps, at least, when he had that moment of the contact with Abby Pulling. Abby, by the way, is 15th, so she has not recovered quite so well as Dan Blake has after that contact they had earlier on. So Ben Leach, I remind you, leads the way by 6.6 seconds, and he's kind of stinking up the show really here because he's missing out on all of the action behind him. He's having the world's loneliest race, but he's quite happy with that because he's well on his way to becoming the first driver to do the clean sweep in both races at any given track. No one's done it all season long, and Ben Leach is now halfway through the final race of the season, and he might be only about 14 or 15 minutes away from doing just that. His gap is increasing by the corner. It's just over 6.5 seconds to David Wall in second, Ben Sharp in third, and then this fight fourth. Gavin Johnson fourth, Rivette fifth, Best is 6th, Crosby 7th, then a small gap back to Dan Blake in 8th. He's back ahead of Carl Jacquelette now, but they all continue to stack up behind Gavin Johnson, who defends through Coppice. Oh, there's contact! Oh, Johnson's off the road, and he takes Alex Rivette with him, and that is the final nail in the coffin, I'm afraid, for Gavin Johnson's championship. There's damage done to the car, most definitely. Alex Rivette you have to feel for as well. He seemed rather innocent in that. Here's the replay through Coppice. He gets over the curb, Johnson, and that's very similar to the contact they had at McLean's a few laps ago, where Johnson went up the inside to make the move on Rivette, had a moment, and as he lifted off the throttle, Rivette ran into him. That time around, though, it was a much more significant amount of contact, and it drops Johnson down to 9th, Rivette down to 11th. Both of them, you have to feel, walking wounded. Now, they've also caught back up there to Ian Crosby, so Crosby must have been delayed in that too. Crosby's letting him go, so I think Ian Crosby must have had... I did see another wing flying as they went down the exhibition straight, so I wonder if maybe there was some subsequent contact which evolved somehow in Crosby, because he's really fading fast now. Out of the race is Alex Rivette, sadly. He has retired. So Alex Rivette, or he's in the pits, I should say, actually. Just gone back on track, but repaired the damage. He's dropped down now to 17th. That's a real shame. Oh, Ian Best was the man that lost his rear wing. So Ian Best, who is in 5th position with the most damage. And Dan Blake, Teflon coated is Dan Blake, because he looked as if he was going to get the worst end of all of that. He'd fallen right behind everyone, really, after that moment that he had at the old hairpin. And in the end, that's what kept him out of trouble, because had he kept his position and been a couple of places higher up the order, he'd have been right in the middle of all of that and could well have found himself off the road again. But Dan losing places actually turned out to be beneficial, and he's been able to pick his way through the chaos and move himself into 4th place. I need a break, I think, from all of that action. Let's watch Paul Warren for a while, shall we? As Paul is down the back straight in the number 98 car. Paul Warren, former oval racer, now competes in the 750 Motor Club Hot Hatch Championship with the Citroen Saxo. Paul Warren is, in this race, running in 50th position right now, and Paul's newest rival in front of him is Chris Knox, about 1.6 seconds up the road. To the pit lane there goes Ian Crosby, so Crosby actually is now going to be the next driver behind him in 50, well now 16th place. Abby Pulling now, she's 12th. and about 1 second clear of Chris Knox and 4 seconds behind Kevin Boland, but lapping about a second a lap quicker, so there's every chance Pulling is going to gain extra position or two here before the end of the race. Pulling has been in the pits, in fact she's been in the pit lane twice to try and get that car fixed, and still amazingly running in 12th position. That is remarkable, still on the lead lap as well, despite those 2 pit lane visits. Behind her is Chris Knox, actually that's for position. Chris Knox is catching her fairly rapidly, so this is a genuine battle now for 12th place between the 2 black cars. There is Chris in the 888 Player Special Lotus Formula 1 tribute livery. This will not be the kind of position that he was looking at fighting for today, but the former JCW Mini Challenge champion, in fact double champion in top class of Mini Challenge racing in 2011 and 2014, he's also a stunt driver in the Fast and Furious live show, demonstrating some of his stunt driving capabilities last time out at Lime Rock Park. I mean, though, he's managing to keep all 4 wheels on the ground, and he's trying to move ahead of Abby Pulling here. In fact, he's just set the fastest lap as Chris Knox, 1 minute 18.23. That is quite a bit quicker than anyone else has gone in this race. A shame, he was clearly delayed in the early stages, started towards the back as well. In fact, he gained 7 places from the 20th place that he started, trying to gain his 8th place now at the expense of Abby Pulling. These two are reasonably evenly matched, though, so this should be quite an entertaining battle. Oh, there's a car off the road in front of them, and Chris Knox follows in his wheel tracks. What went off, I think, was Kevin Boland, who they're both catching, so it would soon become a rather tasty anyway fight for 11th place. Boland, one of the biggest movers, he gained 11 positions from the start. Pip Hammond, though, has gained 14. He didn't have a good qualifying in pit, maybe because he was a bit too busy between sessions doing all of the maths and trying to work out what that meant for the championship. And his good mate Gavin Johnson actually running behind. They're 9th and 8th places respectively. So Pip Hammond has gained the most places in this race, 14 spots into 9th position. There is Pip through the first corner at Redgate. The 2009 and 2011 750 Motor Club Classic Stock Hatch champion. Also the 2017 BRSTC Porsche 924 champion, and that's how he came to know Gavin Johnson well, because Gavin was also competing in the 2017 BRSTC Porsche 924 championship. Now have started working together in the 750 Motor Club Club Enduro series, as well as working on the PDC Racing series, of course. Hammond in 9th position. Is he likely to gain any more than that? Well, not based upon his previous lap time, because he was a second slower than Gavin Johnson in front of him, and actually about half a second slower than Rick Selby behind him, but Rick is 8 seconds back, so I'm not having the most exciting race, but he is at least on for another good top 10 finish. Ed Cooper, likewise, he's 7th. Now, he has got some company because Gavin Johnson's right behind him. Oh, Ed Cooper, was that enough curb through the chicane? I think you could have taken more if you were really trying. Only suspension left, of course, but that was a very aggressive line through the chicane. Not convinced it helped his exit speed, though, so Gavin Johnson with a personal best lap last time around. Slowed down a little bit now because he's in the dirty air of the Ed Cooper car in front. In front of them, Carl Jacquelet and Ian Best. Now, Carl Jacquelet is fading in the middle portion of the race. He's now into the top 5. So, really good stuff this from Carl, who is just about fending off Ian Best's slightly damaged car. Quickly, these cars don't seem to be ultra difficult to drive with quite a lot of damage, so that has definitely been fortunate at times. Once they go, and are those two catching these two? I think Jacquelet and Best are starting to hold each other up, and yeah, on the previous lap they were both quite a bit slower, almost a full second slower than Ed Cooper and Johnson, so we could have 4 cars back together again here before the checkered flag, which is approaching. We're into the final third of the race now. I've got a few scores to settle still before the final checkered flag of season 1 of the PDC Racing series. Oh, Jacquelet sideways. He's going to lose it this time, surely. Far too much curve through the chicane. He exits stage left. And through goes Ian Best. Through goes Ed Cooper. Through goes Gavin Johnson. Best, I think, has also had to slow down there as a result of his curb hopping. It's the end of the Jacquelet half spin. Well to save it, actually, but drivers have been getting more and more aggressive with those curbs through the final chicane, and eventually someone was going to come a cropper. Carl Jacquelet that has had the moment, and now Pip Hammond has someone to chase because there's only a couple of seconds between them now. promotes Gavin Johnson up a position now into 7th place. It's not going to matter for the championship, but he'll work his way up another couple of places here to be in the top 5 at the end of the year and keep that run of its finishing positions going. He's one of very few drivers to have finished in the points in every single race this year. Like Rick Selby have done it as well, but that might be it, I think. Yeah, I can't see anyone else that's managed it, so consistency can win you championships. On this occasion, though, it is going to be race wins that pay dividends for Dan Blake with those 2 wins he had earlier on in the season. Gavin Johnson looks as though he'll remain winless. But, 2nd place in the championship, still a good achievement. It is a shame that we didn't see Ian Bailey racing with us tonight, because he was an awful lot closer to Dan Blake points-wise after the previous races at Lime Rock Park. That would have really set up an intense championship showdown, but it's been a pair of great races nonetheless, even if you forget about the championship situation. On-track racing has been superb, and it ain't over yet, because Gavin Johnson is still trying to gain these extra places. Now, that looked very late on the brakes for Ian Best into Redgate, but actually he makes the corner, and they both gain slightly on Ed Cooper in front of them. So Ed is now the one punching the hole in the air. The other 2 are trying to follow him, gain from that slipstream that they're getting. The 20th lap of racing now. Lots of curb being used by all of them through the apex and the exit of the old hairpin. And just trying to find the opportunity to get through, but it's proving difficult. Very evenly matched, these 3. Cooper, 5th position, will not want to give up this 5th position, because Ed's had a slightly up and down season, it's fair to say. Ed not raced with us, I think, at the first rounds of the championship, but he had into this weekend. His best finish was actually the 4th place finish he had in race 2 at Lime Rock Park. He's currently running in 5th, so he's not quite going to that, but he certainly doesn't want to fall any further down the order. Both he and Ian Best get very sideways through the chicane, though, and so Johnson, I think, was setting up a move down the pit straight. Abby Pulling and Chris Knox have been together for a while, and the position hasn't changed either. They've sort of just been working together, and they're picking their way through the field quite nicely. They're now into 11th and 12th places, and they could still catch Rick Selby and fight for a top 10 position before the end of the race. Chris Knox, though, seems to have had enough of running in the wheel tracks of Abby Pulling, and he moves across to the left-hand side of the road, our right wide line, as we look towards them into Redgate Corner. Uses all of the pit lane exit there to try and get the widest possible line into the first turn. The 90-degree right-hander, and as Pulling runs a bit wide over the grass, that could give Chris Knox run, and indeed it does. Gets most of his car in front before they get through Hollywood, slides over across the nose of Abby Pulling, moves into 11th place. They're 2 seconds behind Rick Selby, who is then 14 seconds behind Pip Hammond, so that looks as though 10th place is as high as either of these 2 will get. It could well be either one of them manages to take that 10th place. Almost some contact there as they go through Starkeys. Pulling now does get a look to the inside into McLean's corner. Just about hang on for now. And the first of the 2 right-handers at the far end of the circuit absolute together. There's some traffic ahead of them. It's the green and white car that they're chasing, number 6 Rick Selby. The black cars in front of him are lapped down now, which possibly is Adam Christodoulou, and in fact, yeah, that is a fight for position between Adam Christodoulou and Luke Handley. It's for 22nd place, but Christodoulou, who's just done his personal best lap last time around, 118.7, pretty quickly now the car is fixed. Hopefully we'll see him back maybe for season 2, even for a full season campaign. That would be fascinating to watch, to see how he gets on. To the line they go then into the closing stages of this race now. We possibly will get one more lap after this, because of course Ben Leach is so far ahead of everyone else. He's nearly 10 seconds clear of the rest of the field, that he might just sneak through for another lap. Here he comes into the chicane. Now, how long is left on the clock? 1 minute left, I'm being told. So Leach goes across the start-finish line. Yeah, 9.5 seconds is cushion. He sees the last lap board and looks as though he's going to do it. He's going to do the double. First time this year someone is going to win both races in the PDC Racing series. It's out of Redgate Corner. The best of the battling really is going on outside of the top 5. You've got Ian Best just 0.8 of a second clear of Ed Cooper, so that has changed recently actually. And Pip Hammond was about half a second behind old Jack Lett a while ago, but he's dropped right back now. There's Pip passing his way through the chicane. I think he's had a moment because Yeah, his previous lap was all right, but he's definitely dropped back on this one from Jacqueline, who does a 19.49. He had a 20.91, so a second and a half lost for Hammond somewhere on that previous lap, so I don't think he's going to gain any more out of this race. Dan Blake, though, is looking good for the championship now. He already was looking good, really, before this race, but he hasn't managed to survive this one without drama. That spin he had whilst dicing for the lead earlier on, or for second place earlier on, I think, wasn't it, really? The contact he had with Abby Pulling almost derailed his championship, but he heads out through the final lap, out of the final corner. Ben Leach, and Ben Leach is absolutely delighted. He wins both of the races here at Donington Park, and Ben Leach does it in style as well. He won the first race by a few seconds. He's going to win race 2 by getting on for 11 seconds, I reckon. David Ward, who we haven't seen much of, crosses the line, 10.2 seconds back at the flag. And Ben Sharp, likewise, we've missed through most of the race, but he comes home in 3rd. But in 4th place, your provisional PDC Racing Series champion is Dan Blake. Fantastic job by Dan. There's all guessing right the way through into the final race of the season, but Dan Blake has done it. 4th place should be enough for the title. Gavin Johnson is in 5th position and was a worthy opponent to Dan over the final few rounds of the championship. Ed Cooper comes home in 6th place, 7th Carl Jacqueline, 8th Ian Best, 9th Pip Hammond, and Rick Selby should come home to round out the top 10 positions. Some fantastic racing along the way. Be Pulling, by the way, got the better of Chris Knox in their private battle for 11th position. They never quite caught Rick Selby, possibly as a result of their dicing, but that was a really good battle between the pair. Pulling gets 11th, Knox 12th, Kevin Boland 13th, Ian Crosby 14th, Alex Rivette 15th, Alex Hall in 16th, and Paul Warren and Freddie Hewitt yet to see the checkered flag. Should come home in 17th and 18th. Here they come. Paul Warren, the yellow car. Freddie Hewitt is the next car behind, I think. Yep, the red car. Then we've seen the checkered flag in 19th, Carl Hazelton 20th, Doug Hamilton 21st, Adam Christodoulou, sorry, not Ricky, his brother, is 22nd, and Luke Handley in 23rd. So I've messed up Adam Christodoulou's surname and his first name, so I owe him an apology when I next see him in the British GT paddock. And that is it. 23 drivers get to the end. Ben Bateman, Lee Vaughan, Danny Holland don't, and we never did see the serious extra runner Graham Sessford, but I hear he's been busy working away anyway in the pit lane for the last half an hour or so. So it is Ben Leach that wins the race. It is Dan Blake that wins the championship. 4th place is enough in the end. The podium finishers, though, will be happy. Leach, Ward and Sharp. We'll try to have a word with them, but we'll definitely get a word with Dan Blake, your champion. And it will be nice if we get a chance to chat to Gavin Johnson as well. He comes home in 5th. Ed Cooper is 6th. Carl Jacqueline 7th. Ian Best is 8th. Pip Hammond 9th. Selby to round out the top 10. So that is it for the PDC Racing Series. It's been a fantastic season of racing that started at Alton Park a few weeks ago. And the drivers, as they get more and more used to these cars, I think we've seen more and more competitive racing from them. And as I said, if we do get a season 2, then I think we can be in for an even more wide open affair, actually, with lots of drivers proving they can win races. Ben Leach is absolutely going to be in contention for a championship should we return for season 2. Fighting my way through some early summer allergies, I think, at the moment. Ben Leach, though, really impressive with his performances here. Didn't compete with us through most of the middle part of the season. He did Alton Park, where he finished down in 9th place in race 1. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong column. Where he finished in 7th place in race 1, but then won race 2 with his laps. So actually, Ben is going to win. He's won 3 races. That's more wins than anybody else. So Ben Leach, if he had been with us throughout the whole season, likely would have been the one to beat. He won 3 of the 4 races that he entered in, including the double here at Donington. So a lot of people will be watching out for him, I think, if and when we return again next time. Dan Blake, no doubt, is going to be the one that steals the headlines here. He is your provisional champion. I have to still say provisional because there is always the chance for some post-race penalties, but I don't think Dan did anything that would deserve a penalty, at least that I saw. He had that spin and contact that he had with Pulling earlier on in the race, but that was just a racing incident, I think, really, and it didn't benefit him at all. He ended up losing out almost as much as Abby did, but twice tonight, Dan had to his way through after early contact, and on both occasions was able to get through and score some points. Finished 7th in the first race, and he better got 4th place in race 2. We should be able to have a chat definitely with our champion Dan Blake in a moment or two, but we've also got Adam Christodoulou and Chris Knox, I think, who are lingering around behind the commentary box windows. So if either of them fancies coming in for a quick natter as we await our podium drivers to turn up, we're going to start with, quite rightly so, our champion, our provisional champion at least for the PDC Racing Series, Dan Blake. Well, Dan, that was a little more tense, probably wanted it to be. The early laps of both race 1 and 2 did not quite go to plan, did they?
No, especially in the second one, I made it very hard for myself. I need to apologise to Abby and the other drivers that I took out there as well in that incident. I'm very sorry. But as you say, I didn't make it easy for myself. In the first race, there was contact and I fought through. And the second race as well, I was sort of just trying to pick my spots really. I knew that I had to finish in front of Gavin to win the championship. And in those 2 races, even if I finished 8th, 9th, just as long as I was finishing in front of Gavin, I would take those results.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a great drive through the order with damaged race car, or did you avoid too much damage in that second contact?
I had damage in both races, yeah. I lost a bit of top end, but sort of just got my head down, started concentrating and focusing. And in the second race in particular, there was a pack of 5 ahead of me, which sort of collided with each other and sort of gave me an open way to go past a lot of them pretty much in about half a lap. So that helped a lot, but yeah, it was really good racing.
I wanted to talk to you about that actually, because we had that contact between Gavin Johnson and Alex Rivette, which sort of threw the grenade in amongst all of you, and you could so easily have been caught up in that. But only a lap or so earlier, you'd had a moment at the old hairpin, which had actually dropped you out of the middle of that group. So in the end, that kind of worked out in the long run, didn't it? Kept you out of trouble.
Yeah, old hairpin wasn't my best friend in that second race. The first lap it was sort of cut early in the race. I had cold tyres, sort of lent on them, I think, a little bit too much. I tried to save it then, didn't quite save it, but second moment I managed to save it, and sort of my teammate Carl Jackalette went back past me, and then sort of it has to do with the hard work again. But as you say, it could have been a really good favour because it sort of I was a bit further back than I would have been to the action that unfolded in front.
An eventful night, but a successful one in the end, a successful season as well. 2 race wins earlier on. Essentially is what's won you the championship. Gavin was more consistent, arguably, wasn't able to win a race. It goes to show that this consistency can win you championships, but if you're fast and you put yourself on the top step of the podium, particularly early in the season, it really does set you up nicely, doesn't it, to build on that and build a championship charge.
Oh, exactly, Andy. The championship's been building as well, sort of week on week. I think the first race there was 8, so we've had nearly 30 for the finale, so it's got tougher and tougher as the season's gone on, and just to get those early points, those early wins really help. But I think the lowest I finished all season was 7th in that first race the whole season. So even with the bigger grids, I've sort of been trying to be near the front and sort of give the drivers at the front something to think about, and it's been a really enjoyable championship.
It's been great fun to watch as well, and congratulations on the championship victory, Dan. And I'll be seeing you on Monday night again, I'm sure, for some more Formula 4 racing back in the comms box on that occasion. But congratulations on the race victory, on the championship victory, excuse me, and hopefully we'll see you back again for season 2.
Yeah, excellent. I'd like to say 3 thank yous. Thank you to Gavin, PDC Racing for setting up the championship. It's been really good. Also, thank you to Yearone Flip Flop Company, my sponsors, and all the rest of the team sponsors. And also, thank you to yourself for broadcasting. It's been great. And so, thank you very much, guys.
Stuff. Well done, Dan Blake, then your provisional PDC Racing Series champion. Now, who else can we have a chat with? I can see a few drivers lining up. We can have a word, I think, with Gavin Johnson. Yeah, championship runner-up, who finished in 5th place in that race. Gavin, gave it your all. You were always have to come from some way behind, but for a moment in both races, it looked as though he might have just thrown it away. Enough to hang on in the end, though, didn't he?
Yeah, I think it'd have been a great escape, wouldn't it, Andy? It was all a bit reckless tonight for me. Dan certainly deserves it. I'm happy for him, and I think Ian Bailey stayed second despite not racing on points. I've not looked at it yet, but the lads have been great all season. It's been good fun, and a bit disappointed to not do better tonight, but that's the way it goes.
Dan's just made a really good point, though, that the grid has grown over the recent rounds, but it's also, I think, not just grown quantity, but the quality as well. There are some genuinely quick drivers out there and drivers that have got quicker as the season's gone on. So it's not easy anymore, is it, to get podiums and top fives? They're not a given.
Yeah, I think the top 10 super competitive. We had a couple of people not raced last week that were in this week. We've got Abby Pullin and Krista Dooley's in now and a few other proper pedalers. So yeah, you've got to be bang on. I was doing 18.3s in testing, couldn't replicate it in qualifying or the race, and you get mauled. So it's good, it's how it should be, and look forward to season 2. Hopefully everyone comes back.
Yeah, definitely. We were speculating about that during the race. I think there are some drivers that, should we come back for a second season and should they return, going to be really quick. I mean, Ben Leach taking his 3rd win of the season, dominating fashion in that second race. So I think, this is definitely something good to build off. And I know that you and Pip are going to be looking at things to tweak and improve maybe for the future. But I think based on what we've seen this first season, I think there's definitely a future there, isn't there?
Yeah, I think so. We've got to 35 drivers in the league now, and they're good people and the good racers. And I think everyone's enjoying it. But Ben's certainly quick, to give him a mention. Yeah, I think he was sandbagging in testing. He was flying. He's handy. But everyone is. I think we've probably got a good 20 drivers who could win a race. It's just a little bit of luck of the draw at turn 1, and away you go. A lot happens in these races, and yeah, they're really good fun. Hopefully everyone enjoyed it. Thanks to you and the Yearone guys for streaming it, and all our sponsors, RS Components and Pingin, SR Electrical and Template Construction Management for supporting us. I think without them guys, we wouldn't be doing this, and hopefully it's been well received.
Yeah, I think it definitely has been, Gavin, and well said. Yeah, thanks to everyone that's helped put this all together, yourself and Pip included. And yeah, we look forward already to season 2. Well done, Gavin. Not quite the championship, but you've kept us entertained throughout, that's for sure.
Thanks, Andy. Cheers.
Well then, let's try and have a word then. One more interview maybe I think we've got time for. Have we got our race winner, Ben Leach, here? I don't think we have. We've got David Ward and Ben Sharp, though. So let's see. Let's go for David Ward. I don't think we've spoken to him yet this season. And David Ward pops his head, or will pop his head momentarily into the commentary box. There he is. David Ward, second place finish in the final race of the PDC Racing Series. Couldn't keep up with Ben Leach, but then let's be fair, no one could tonight, could they? A good, solid result, though, and you battled hard in the early stages to make that second place yours.
Yeah, it was a good run. I think Ben definitely had the pace, and I wasn't able to keep in the slipstream. And once he broke that, he was just tense, edging out. I think at that point it was okay. Let's consolidate this and keep that gap behind Ben Sharp, in front of Ben Sharp. Good race, really good fun car to drive. It's the second time I've driven this thing, so yeah, really good fun.
You make an interesting point there. You did the Silverstone round, didn't you, with us, but you haven't raced in the rest of the season. Have you noticed a difference in the level of competition from Silverstone to now? Because it really seems that not only have the grid numbers increased, but also the quality of driver out there. It's getting harder and harder to do what you've done tonight and get podium finishes.
Yeah, it's definitely, everyone's definitely up their game. I think the level of driving is very good. Everyone's very respectful, which is, what you want from racing, firm but fair.
Yeah, absolutely. Entertaining to watch as well. And if you can pick your way through the drama early on, then you can kind of try and escape. But qualifying is important, though, isn't it? You've got to try and get that good track position and escape any potential issues at the start of the race, which is exactly what you did that time.
Yeah, definitely. I think qualifying well, especially on a track like this, where the draft is important as you're going down the hanger straight, getting a good run down Craner curves, just making sure you're clean all the way through.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hopefully we'll see you back again for season 2. What do you reckon? Do you fancy a proper stab at a championship next time?
Yeah, I'll come and give it a go. Definitely. I said, the second time I've driven this car, really enjoyed it. Good bunch of lads, and yeah, and you guys are commentating on it as well. What more could you want?
The commentator maybe, but I wouldn't dream of saying that. Thanks, David. Anyway, well done on the podium, and we'll see you again soon, hopefully.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just want to say a shout out to Alan Toon, because I know he's watching this, and all the Result Clothing guys as well.
Well done, David, and congratulations on the podium. Well, I think that just about is all we have time for, really. We don't want to keep you any longer tonight. We hope you've all enjoyed the racing action from the PDC Racing Series. I think you probably have, haven't you? It's been good fun right the way throughout, and fingers crossed that we will have a season 2 to enjoy in the very near future. We'll keep you updated with all of the developments and breaking news on that front as well. A final chance for me to give my thanks to all of our series sponsors: Template Construction Management Services, RS Components, Pingin, SR Electrical, and of course PDC, who back the championship. Thanks to Gavin and Pip as well for leading to my involvement in the PDC Racing Series. Hopefully something that can continue in the future. And thanks as well, of course, to Graham Sessford and the Yearone Racing TV team for handling the broadcasts as professionally as ever they do. And thank you guys as well for watching from home. We hope you've enjoyed the racing action for the PDC Racing Series. It's been great fun to cover. Look forward to being back again in the near future. Don't forget as well, there's plenty more racing action coming up on the Yearone Racing TV channel in the next few days. On Monday night, we go Formula 4 racing at the Brands Hatch Indy Circuit for rounds 3 and 4 of the British Formula 4 iRacing Championship. Then it is the BSR MX5 Championship on Tuesday nights. There 4 races will be coming to you on Tuesday evening, and on Wednesday evening, the second meeting of the year for the PowerMax Racing E-Series. Some top-level, real-world touring car drivers, GT drivers, single-seater racers going up against 15 of the fastest sim racers in the land. The first 2 races at Donington this week were epic. Don't want to miss any of that action or the other action that you can see on the Yearone Racing TV channel in the next week or so. Well, thank you once again for joining us, and we hope you've enjoyed the racing as much as we have. No, that is all we have time for. So for now, all that remains for me to say, thank you for watching, and we'll see you all again next time.